Word rating 2 days.
What's going on back there?
Yeah.
Someone's had a big digger or something.
Oh,
right
that's
there.
the geothermal
Oh.
project. They're
Okay.
starting to stump. And,
Part of the sustainable future.
yeah, if we could get through the construction part.
Jane, that clubhouse that you guys belong to, it's on County Road.
Hi Heather, can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, 850.
Yes, I can.
You're the whole screen.
I see you in the background. That's intense.
That's intense.
Nice haircut.
Should they?
Thank you.
Did you just cut it all off?
I like maybe 2 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
So basically,
It's a new year, right?
Right, fresh start.
just once, but also through your camera.
Here comes Anthony.
and make it up. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, it was pretty
Hey,
crazy.
Anthony.
Hi.
No, they make an announcement.
I'm gonna look at the town's
You hustle
website.
outside, unless you, and then
Hi, Jen.
you stand there with your camera. What we saw, their eye was really like.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, I think one time it was supposed to be seen from here.
It's a Zoom only for the selectmen.
Oh, okay.
It showed up.
Yeah.
Where's Molly?
Wow.
I thought she was gonna.
Hi, Jen. Hi, Ed.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah. Hi. I sent you.
Hi there.
That Zoom meeting, it's
It's a Zoom
Board of
meeting?
Selectmen.
Oh, okay, I just didn't know.
The next meeting in here is at 6 o'clock. It's the Garden Point, but I figured, yeah. So no conflict.
It was not, I was just saying, I'm nothing like.
Nothing like that. You can see, yeah, sure it is.
We arrived and it was, I go down there for 30 years. Not every single year. But 30 years, it's 2 days. So, Oregon, floods, St. John. And all the mountains where the water was coming down. Not the first night. And during the back of the Jeep and it's still hazy. Very little areas. But then it cleared up and everything was nice. It was 80 degrees. It was beautiful.
They were covered from the battery they took and
Not completely. I mean, from the northeastern back, yeah, that's still a lot of places you can see, there's basically, the roof is off. Hey, Eric.
Oh, hey.
Hello, Eric. I'm going to meet tomorrow. Everybody.
How you doing?
Oh, it's up to you. Morning.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's not.
It was a huge.
So it's an adventure. This is one of those things.
Here's what I said to my husband. Here's what I won't be doing. I will not be going on vacation. I have to wear boots and the most ridiculous huge coat. Never happening. You're gonna have to find another wife.
Or another destination.
It's not happening. You know.
Okay, let's make it 10:30. Public chat?
Okay.
That's.
Yeah. You're maybe able to.
Hey. How are you?
All right. We're
Into the Zoom.
What's that?
All right, who's gonna do the minutes?
Maybe, show it to the Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. So.
It wasn't an article I read about.
Yeah.
Which is like, really, America is whatever. how-
Okay.
it's
Change,
just
change.
30.
So wait a second.
Most of them are.
Doing today.
Yeah. And all that makes it so difficult.
Okay. Okay.
That's right, we're right.
4:07, start the meeting at 4:07. Open order. Minutes of the February 7th meeting, I was not at that. Would like to, motion about that, right? Second, anyone opposed? Okay.
I'll abstain.
public comment, but doesn't seem to be any public here, so I think the first thing we should talk about, this is first thing you talk about is next Thursday, we have our meeting with the town meeting. Invitations have gone out. I think we have tried to do as much as we can to encourage people to come. I mean, suggested yesterday is that when any of us were at a meeting, at a smaller meeting, we could meet people and say, please come. Yesterday,
Can you all hear on Zoom?
that's the Mets.
We have to- No, the speaker is up on the
Yeah,
top
you
of the
have to-
TV,
yeah,
so
speaker, yes.
we have to project in that
Great.
general direction.
As we're talking, please just raise your hand or say something. If you're really not hearing this, if you're missing parts of it, just raise your hand. I think we have to face over there. Okay. Thanks, Jen. So yesterday morning, we had a Zoom meeting and discussed the agenda for that. And I think maybe, Erin, would you like to just talk about the agenda? Where we are with that? This is the meeting on next Thursday. We're going to meet in the Asset room, public meeting, board of selectmen, members of the P and Z, as well as our committee, as well as
29.
Pardon?
29.
29th, yes, next Thursday, the 29th. So, Erin, would you like to do it, or shall I just run through and then probably make mistakes? And correct?
No, so I mean, we had basically a couple of or a few goals. One, to educate residents and the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Selectmen on what is affordable housing, why it's important, give examples of current affordable housing, both in town and in other municipalities. And then, so this is like the higher level goals, and then we'll get into the meeting format. And then also to introduce the committee and the affordable housing plan briefly, some of the higher policy items there, and talk about what you've been up to for the last year, what you've learned, how you're engaging with the public, and that this is very much public driven, looking for, in these small group meetings with our community. And then really to allow opportunity for the public to be heard. If people are interested in sharing some questions or concerns or general thoughts or ideas about housing. Not, the goal isn't necessarily to answer or we're not expected to have answers for all of their questions at this point, but to really kind of encourage people to start thinking about it, and then also to invite them to future committee meetings where maybe it won't feel as not threatening, but having so many regulatory board members present, they might feel a little more comfortable in this type of a setting, having more of a casual discussion on things that are related to their housing needs. So that was the higher level of our goals for the meeting. And then really the plan for the meeting itself is that this committee is hosting the meeting. The Board of Selectmen and the Planning and Zoning Commission are also guests of the committee. So you're kind of running this. Jen, we'd love to have you as a welcome, you and Peggy kind of team as part of the welcome, introducing everybody in, welcome, thanks for coming. We'll probably, we're trying to set up the room more in a conversational setting, either in a round, circular session, so that people aren't basically looking at a meeting table here and being stuck in the audience. We're really kind of creating that we're all on the same playing field here and open for conversation. And I'll bring, some food and I had even talked about maybe some of these examples of just photographs or boards on some of our affordable housing developments here in town throughout the room, as well as David Fink, one of our consultants who will be here to talk about affordable housing in general. He'll have some slideshow, slides to present that will be accessible for both those attending via Zoom and in person. We also have some handouts. He has, a general affordable housing, fact sheets, like 3 or 4 pages. He sent me some other ideas that he's working on. They reminded me of the Scrog housing trends, that were town specific. So I told him, my most recent response to him was that I would just love to update the 2021 Scrog housing fact sheet for town. It was nice because it has some diagrams in it. It has some other, it's just it's a little more interactive, I think, than just text for people to read through. So we're going to work on a couple of those kinds of things to have out on the table, and then also to supplement and add to your website, because Rita has made some changes in that, and it's starting to look like you guys own it now.
Question for you.
Yes.
How many invites went out? How many people are you expecting?
Well, so we don't know.
We know how many we sent out, we don't know how many people are gonna come.
I can tell you our email, we have a dedicated email, recipients who are interested in receiving affordable housing information. There's like 250 on that list, I think.
You
We
said
have-
300 from last year, we've added 100.
It's not 300. I have the Excel spreadsheet. As I went through and eliminated duplicates, some of them were duplicates from the meeting. Some of them had responses, but didn't want to be included. So I had to clean that Excel list up. But anyway, so I did update all of your contacts that you've gathered and what we had, and made a deliberate blast to them through email and text message. And then also Peggy has included it in her weekly updates. It's on social media, it's on the website. Rita's done a nice job trying to get that out there. The other thing, the last piece is what you mentioned, Mark, are those individual opportunities to reach out to some of the connections we've made in the community and personalize that invitation and say, look, it would mean a lot to us if you came. This is our first step.
If they gave us an email address at one of those sessions, they received the invitation. have they done
Yes. But we did talk about that, the
Yeah,
benefit of,
yeah.
that personal
Having the
invitation.
sponsoring person from the community group reach out to their constituents.
this? Ask who was at it, so
Rather
this is
than
nice.
us.
The St. Margaret's.
Right.
The temple, we've got.
Yeah. It's a useful tool. David uses it on me all the
Yeah.
time.
It works.
And it does work. Other things that he's doing throughout the state, and he'll say, he'll add me and a couple other people, and he'll say, well, after we talked about this, I really think it would be nice for you to join us. And you think, oh, geez, he's working. But
It's just a matter of.
does it work, Aaron?
I just, every once in a while, I go to the Madison Republican Committee, Madison Democratic Committee Facebook page. I just look and see what they're posting. And the graphic for this meeting was posted on the Republican Committee site. And, I had a couple people ask, where is it? Somebody asked, where is it? He said where it was. And then there were like 9 little likes, but then there were a couple of angry emoji faces. And then there was a couple sad emoji faces. So
The Democrats said they would post it as well.
they have not yet. I saw.
So they just
Oh, okay, well, this was posted on the Republican
The
page.
Chamber, we
a
would have
while
sent over
ago.
the Chamber of
Yeah,
Commerce.
it
for
was
sure.
posted. a
Yeah.
while ago.
So, these are,
So anyway.
it's about being welcome for
Yeah.
everyone. And I think the catchphrase on the flyer was really to kind of catch people's attention and make them want to show up.
Well, I think when it says change is coming to Madison, I think that's kind of, like gets people's attention.
Yeah, that was intentional.
Yeah.
It's gotta show up if there's,
So
So,
Madison is changing, please help us.
Molly and Heather, can you send it to your clients as well?
Yeah, we will definitely post it on our Facebook page. The family has a Facebook page. And I don't know about Heather, not all my clients have email. I'm not sure whether that's shocking or not, but But yeah, most of my families do. It's my older disabled, not so much. So sure.
Heather,
Well,
how
we
about
could
you
always
do
do
this?
colored, we could do some printed flyers too, if people come in, to have on a
Yeah.
desk available or tacked up in the
Yep.
windows. It's in the Hammonasset room and
It's the-
hybrid.
The Hammonasset.
What's an ideal number? What are we aiming for?
I have no idea. We get what we get.
If you get,
Honestly,
It's also
it could
remote.
be,
It's also remote.
okay, so.
and it depends on the weather, if it's raining hard or something, or it snows, we're obviously gonna have a different situation. But I think, probably, I'm guessing somewhere between 30 and 40 people, the most. Yeah.
I mean, there's a general rule of thumb, marketing wise, as how these things
10%,
work.
yeah.
And I thought it was 10%.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
So we'll see. I mean, it depends. I mean, a lot of these angry people may be more willing to show up than
And
people.
then there were some, and there
Who
were
did the smiley
shares.
faces, so, we'll see. And
Or it's just
actually,
No, there were
people
no smiley faces.
That was the-
interested
There was
in,
a sad
Yeah.
faces and.
More
angry
curious than
faces.
anything.
okay, but I think this is actually good, because this is the things we want to get out.
It
We
is,
want to be able
yeah.
to respond to those kinds of things, so that we, calm people down.
yeah.
But I think it is, Jen, and I think this is kind of important when you and Peggy are doing the introduction or starting this thing, is that we did say something provocative. We said Madison is changing. As soon as you say change, you've got opposition is already there. And so I think we need to talk about what we mean by change. And I think that most appropriately should come from you guys, simply because you're the top people. You're a liaison, you're a board of selectmen person.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is like, there are changes, whether you like it or not, you may be happy, you may not be happy with the changes that are happening, but they are happening. And so we want to, part of our job, I believe, is to help measure, work with that and try to modify that, whatever the changes are.
Right. We took some good notes yesterday in a planning kind of meeting with Ben Fink and who will be facilitating this meeting, and David. And so I wrote those down. I didn't bring them today to get into them, but I thought maybe we could just have a quick call, you and Peggy and I, and just kind of go through. Peggy's going to introduce. You have a nice opportunity that you're the liaison for both Planning and Zoning Commission and for the committee. So it seemed like a nice transition to have you kind of step in after Peggy.
Yeah.
Moves everybody in and.
Tag team.
Or with. We would prefer
Yeah,
with.
we'll get that all coordinated and make sure that, we set the stage for, pleasant conversation as
Yeah,
best we
really,
can.
what we had, and some of our notes were, in order for some things to stay the same in our community, we need to change a little bit. We need to deal with these outside forces that we can't control. Things are getting expensive. People can't afford to stay here. Maybe we tie in personal stories somewhere, it's a statewide and a national crisis. And how do we take control as a community to address these things?
Well, and quite frankly,
And what would work for us?
yeah, and one of the things that we hear quite often is, we do have an aging community, and we have people who are aging in our community that may not want to be in as large of a property as they have, but there are no options for them to downsize into. And, again, one of our goals to be a vibrant community is to have, a variety of age ranges within the town as well. So I think,
Even the younger, on the
Yeah.
flip side, those boomer family, whose kids can't come back and live in the same community as them because they can't afford. So that is a nice balance.
yeah, because they can't afford, or because there's not stock available. I mean, quite honestly,
Question.
yeah.
I'm sorry, how long do you think the meeting's gonna take? Because
Hour and a half.
No more
Yeah,
than.
no more than an hour and a half.
how much
really.
time does the Affordable Housing Committee have versus Ben Fink, who seems to be facilitating?
Very little.
Well,
We're going to do just a very high level, 3-part overview. We're not taking questions. We're not laying out
okay,
details.
it's just an
It's a
introduction.
framing.
then, basically.
It's a
Show the
framing that
PowerPoint?
leads into the
Yeah,
bulk of it.
that's kind of what I was wondering too, Peter.
I think we want to talk it over. I mean, I think as much as possible, trying to get this to be a friendly meeting, not a confrontational meeting. When you put the screen up and start showing that, everybody, now you have an audience and you have presenters.
So,
And I think we want to be able to have more of a dialogue.
Okay.
Let people
I'm
talk.
looking at.
Yeah. well, so this is sort of what we're kind of walking, so, yeah, the goal is to have Peggy introduce with Jen, and kind of set the tone and the goals of this meeting. And then that will kind of, lead into David giving, about a 10-minute overview of what affordable housing is, what are some current stats in Madison, things like that. Which then he would transition, he would ask to hold questions till later and transition over to the committee where you can, and really what he's going to kind of focus on too are what of the needs of our community, being specific to Madison. And that's a great lead into the committee where you can kind of talk about your community meetings, and because that's been a bulk of what you've been doing and what you've learned. And how that ties into the affordable housing plan and those overarching policies in that. So whether it's dividing up between, some of you to talk about, what you've learned most from a committee group, or what struck you from any of these community groups.
It's, more us than the Board of Selectmen or the P and Z people. I mean, the idea is that unless there's some specific question that has to be addressed. But I think we're trying to keep the thing on the issue of affordable housing issue rather than on.
Oh, right, for sure.
Yeah, talk about your community meetings, the plan itself, what you've been up to, and then the implementation, right, of what you're working
We
towards.
identified 3 pieces for us that I think we could do in 10 minutes, which is what we've been doing for the last year, what we've heard from the community, and what the plan major policy plans, not the detailed action. And I think that's enough to then have been taken. All of the meeting is really inviting
To
the
listen.
community to tell us what they want to tell us. He's going to frame it into, you have his framing.
Yeah, he's gonna facilitate that portion, but yes, and that, so then learning from the community that the plan writing process involved the public feedback, and that your goals moving forward are to reflect the goals of our residents here in town. And so that would, now we want, more to hear from you.
The framing is, our charge is to implement the plan, and we want to do it in a way that's responsive to the needs of our community.
Exactly.
Which is,
Yes.
I would make that the first item, and I think we should be saying that there is a plan. We actually have a plan, and our job is to implement. That's
Right, I think that's good. There's an approved plan already.
Yeah.
It's how it is implemented.
unanimously approved plan by the town. And this is why we're
There's not a
saying
debate on it.
we're talking about.
No, not the plan itself. And that went through public.
Yeah, no,
Process.
it exists whether we like it or not.
Right.
Whether anybody likes it or not.
And so then I guess Ben, had talked about, encouraging people to have stories or reflection, from folks in the room, starting with people who have been part of these community conversations. So that's where he had suggested almost like we plant a few people in the audience, like the vetters or the gentleman who had talked at one of the meetings, and we just went
Oh,
through this.
right,
What's his
right.
name again?
Yeah,
At the joint church meeting.
yeah, he had taken over his parents' house, and that was his way in those challenges there.
Yeah, but just kind of somebody who we know that we could count on, who could kind of,
I don't think
kick
we-
it off.
I don't think we actually have to salt them. I think these people are not likely to be silent anyway. They're literally talking. That's
Right,
the
but-
question.
Getting them to show.
yes,
Yeah,
we
we
want
wanna
to
make sure they show
deliberately
up.
reach out and say, hey, can we
Where-
count on you
Where
to?
we know people were willing to talk in our community meetings, we can identify them and reach out to them, encourage them individually, as well as our contact person. In the Madison Community Services meeting, we had a realtor and a bank, both of whom spoke very strongly about the need from the perspective they see. We had several, most of the people, we had several elderly people talking about the kinds of housing they think Madison needs, the folks who are living alone. and have
Yeah.
Anywhere to go.
Well, that would be helpful to invite them or so in between now and
Yeah.
next week, reach out
You can find
directly
those
if you
people
know who they are.
and hopefully we will talk. Ask them.
Suggest that they can talk, not to be reluctant to talk, yes.
Yeah, and then responses, reflections, questions from other people present. And then what our next steps are, including this follow-up meeting that Mark, you had suggested, maybe the March 20th committee meeting, or perhaps,
Well, let's do it. It is, the idea was to take, we have a speaker for our March 6th meeting, so next meeting. March 20 would be a month from now. And the idea there would be to invite people to come to, a follow-up session. So most interested in talking can come here and we can have a conversation here, and if necessary, we can probably move it into that.
We've talked about calling that an hour before our meeting. We
yes,
could do that on the 6th. as well.
Yeah, I know, I'd rather give them enough time to think about it, actually. I think the 6th, I understand, but we have a speaker. Let's use the 20th and have time to think about it. But also in terms of inviting people, I think we should go back and invite people again. Mention it at this meeting, but then follow up with people, maybe seeing if we can possibly get some
Yep.
names and addresses of folks. Particularly the ones that are interested.
So we should have, I mean, you're gonna flag the website and the QR code and all of that for people
Right.
to sign up, but we should also have a hard copy sign up sheet.
yes. Yeah, the goal, what would be the best way for the town moving forward is if people go directly to the website and sign up. It just saves a lot of manual entry on IT department's end and going through. But that if they're willing to do that, that will take them directly to it. Of course, if people don't have the ability to do that, they're welcome to sign up. And so then after public, depending on how many people speak and want to share things, or if they have questions, some of them we might not be able to answer questions. Some we could,
We're sort of saying, we're not here to answer questions, we're here to hear your concerns. And if there's stuff that comes up that needs response, it will, but it was not to get sidetracked.
There will be an informal
Right.
question. There will be people asking an informal question.
yeah,
That's-
well, then
that
we'll
can
be
be
there,
a-
like I'll be, taking notes of what these questions are. So then maybe that's a whole other topic
We
in
could
itself.
promise people that the answers will be on the website and a link will go out to anyone who signed up.
And then,
Don't they, at other meetings, don't they say, we're not necessarily gonna answer every question here, but
sure,
please let us know. That's how a lot of
Yeah,
meetings go.
let's talk about that for a minute, because I think, that I maybe disagree with them. I think that people will tend to ask questions rather than make statements, I think. Some people make statements, but I think there'll be people asking questions more likely. So our position is, how do we respond to questions like, well, is there going to be a housing authority? Things like that.
We don't know is the answer. I think
Yeah, that's fine.
but the frame is ask clarifying questions only on what you heard, but we're not prepared to tell you
That would
how
be a-
we're going to implement the plan.
We will answer but I think what we should say is that, yes, that's something we're looking into. We should be responsive, not just simply say, we'll put that on the list and we'll get back to you. That sounds invasive. I think we have to be very careful not to sound invasive, but somebody else.
Okay, I think we have to be very careful of two things, not to give answers where we're not qualified yet to do it, because we don't know what we're doing. We're here to learn from the community so we can frame our responses.
Worthy of repeating throughout the meeting, I think. But again, what I'm saying is that we should be able to be responsive to questions, even if the response is that has not been decided yet, or we don't know, come to a meeting in March.
I've got to tell you, if we're going to do that, we ought to have a segment, because otherwise it will take over people talking. That's the danger.
I get that, but I think it's
Do
fun.
you want to save questions to
here's-
the end? Or have a segregated portion for that? But I think,
Let's talk
well,
about that.
David was gonna, I
Maybe
thought,
you might have to play by ear. I think it is totally unrealistic to put up a sign and invite people to this topic and just say, yeah, we're not answering any questions. I mean, that's just not realistic. I think that, yes, there will have to be some give and take out of figuring out how to, where to say, well, we'd like to, if a lot of hands start to go up at a certain point, but you're in the middle of a discussion, you don't want to get sidetracked. So maybe we'd like to try and keep a question time at the end or whatever the thought is. And then, yes, it's not like, we don't have a lot of answers yet, but I think you can at least say that. I don't know. I just think maybe you have to
Well,
play it by ear.
That's that's what I'm saying, being responsive, yes, that's what answering. the question.
Exactly.
Answering the question is saying, yes, we're gonna do this, or no, we're not gonna do it, or, forget it. Answer responsive just simply says, that is a very good question, this is what we're working on.
We don't have all the answers on
We don't
that,
have the answers.
whatever.
We don't have the answers.
Some affordable housing questions may be something that you'll find, David will just kind of step in and,
Or if it's specific.
you
about
you know
that
what I
stuff,
mean?
yeah, right.
Some of that
That's-
kind of
that's what
thing.
I thought we'd agree
They're
on,
kind of
things
used
that
to
are
that.
clarified. Just
Improv.
factual statements.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little bit out of it.
I guess
Can just ask-
my view is like,
Later.
ultimately,
Yeah.
we're trying to invite the community in. And they're either gonna make a statement or they're gonna ask a question. And either one will be informative of a point of view.
Right.
And I agree, Bennett, we don't want it in everyone. I don't think anyone at this table is saying, we don't want to make statements and answers to things we don't have answers for. And I think it's like, we hear your concern or we hear your question, and we're gonna put that on something we're looking at. That is it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to feel compelled
And
to
that's-
respond
And
to.
that is the response. No one's gonna walk away and say, oh, those guys are hiding something.
No, I think you acknowledge that they made a great question. We don't have an answer. Something we need to look into.
Francine?
I realize I was out of town and stuff, and I'm feeling a little out of it. Like, has there been a meeting? Because it sounds like there's been a lot of decision making.
It's yesterday morning.
Oh,
It's yesterday morning.
okay, you guys, so you guys met, okay,
Oh, that was the second meeting, we had a preliminary meeting.
wait, okay, to discuss like performance. Okay, so who's presenting them from this committee? Are you gonna be doing
No.
Well, that has to get worked out.
Well, let's talk this thing through before we make, this is really kind of important. We all have to be on board on something like this, or we're not gonna do it right. Number one, it's like, we are the people who are inviting the board and the P and Z people. So we are the hosts of the meeting. There was, and Erin brought it up, she said, well, shouldn't Mark start the meeting? And my feeling about that is, okay, I could do that, but who's that old guy standing out there? I've never seen him before, I don't know who he is. But we do have Jen, and we have Peggy, who have already committed Madison to this program. In other words, they were the ones who presented the plan last year. They voted for the plan. And so it makes much more sense for them to start the meeting. So even though we are the host, I think that makes sense. I think it also makes sense having David Fink there, because David is probably as knowledgeable as anybody is about the technicalities of the affordable housing issues, and as well as some of the examples in the state and probably outside the state. So that's another added value, I think, that comes in here. Ben, we said Ben would be the facilitator. I don't know if that's the right decision or not the right decision. But that was what we were talking about yesterday. So that's worthy of conversation as well. Who should be the facilitator meeting in terms of directing the questions and making people. So that's the next step. But I think the important part of what we're trying to, as Aaron said before, we're trying to say, we have a problem. Madison is changing. We want to manage that change. We have a plan to do that in a broad sense. The plan is has been in public domain for over a year now. Part of the plan was to appoint a committee. We are the committee, and we are diligently working on trying to find the right solutions for the town. And that public comment is incredibly important to us, because we can then be informed what people are looking for and need and are willing to accept.
All well and good. I agree with everything. People bring up great points, but as we learned from our presentations, as soon as you say the word plan, people come right back and say, what's the plan?
And we can.
And they'll repeat it. We've heard it several times. All right,
Yeah.
we have to be consistent with these things.
I think you're gonna break ground tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Yeah.
it's true. Yeah.
But what we're saying, what we said is that the broad strokes of the plan we're talking about,
Yeah.
not specifics of the plan. Like what it would like under each one of those. I think it's what, 3 major
The
categories.
policies.
Yeah.
Policies. So I think we talked about those three things.
Mhm.
But then if there's more information, and by the way, please go to the town website where this,
Right.
and you can read it. Then please come to our meeting on the 20th of March. If you have some more further objection to this. So the fact is there is change happening in Madison, so I don't say.
No.
There is a plan, to address the change, whether we want it to or not.
People don't like change.
No,
But that's what that
But that's
statement
it, no.
is. In order to keep things the
And
way
I-
they are, we need to change.
You
I
can't.
love
So
it.
there's,
You got people's attention.
You can't, again, change is happening. You want to manage a change, or do you want to just sit back and do it?
or do you want someone to manage it for you?
Or do you
So
want to
that,
manage it for
that appeals to both sides,
Which
where you take
could be the
control
big-
locally.
Bigfoot in Hartford,
Right.
and they're do it for you. But we don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
The ways of dealing with it. So,
I think you suggest, Mark, that you should be the one speaking first. There are too many of us, and I think with critical information to convey, the switching speakers just make that. I think you're the chair, just those things you do it. We've got to keep it within the frame of the meeting.
Yes.
I also think that there should be a clear delineation between you and Ben and who Ben is, because some people might not know who he
That's a
is.
good point.
most people.
Yeah.
He's really there to serve as a facilitator. And that was Peggy's suggestion. She wanted someone
Sure,
else
I
to
was just saying
come in
for
and.
the public, they might not know, and it should be a clear.
He's a consultant, they're both consultants to Sprague, which is how we have them. And
No, I
Sprague is paying. And
Yay.
all the towns in our planning region are benefiting from this work.
Okay, that's exactly that type of introduction.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that should be very clear.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's
Yeah,
exactly-
and I think if we make it clear to people, there will be an opportunity for questions to get answered. Let Ben begin doing his thing. He's very masterful. When the answer is, well, we don't know you, Ben can say, do you have an idea?
Yeah, we can turn it
Ben,
around.
say let Ben speak first.
No, he's
Oh,
not going
okay.
to speak. He's going to facilitate the
He's going to select.
The bulk of the meeting is community input. He's going to facilitate it. He's going to
Okay.
get the room talking about this issue
Hopefully.
and sharing their views.
Yeah.
And I think that he does that quite well. What do you think?
Okay,
No,
I'll say,
no, I'm good.
say, and there's, as I say, responsibly, not answering questions that we can't answer, we want answering questions. And unfortunately, probably most of the questions we can't answer.
I mean, because we don't have yet the foundation for making our recommendations because we haven't yet had all the community input. So
We've been trying.
we've been trying, this is another big step for us in the process, and there will be more. And the more we hear from the community, the more informed our recommendations will be made. And by the way, we have no power to do anything other than to
Wise.
advise the board of selectmen, to some extent, the board of finance and planning and zoning, as to how we think the plan should best be implemented. I think that will fly. And the specific questions that we might be able to answer that came on the fly, I think we can promise people that there will be, this will feed a whole set of Q&As, right? We already have Q&As, and this will create a whole new set. And as we can answer them, we will.
And also emphasizing the fact that you will have a meeting on the 20th.
And we'll have another meeting on the side.
You don't have to, you can come back and if you thought more.
Yeah, and if there are more people who want to have more meeting discussions, we can build them in every month.
Do you,
Yep.
and I guess one of our questions, and Heather had her hand raised also. Bennett, your suggestion is that Mark speaks on behalf of the committee. A part of me thinks it might be nice to hear from a few committee members as part of the community meeting part, in talking about that, just because not to take up time or really but it might add a different perspective of others, or
Maybe Ben can
personalize
have us
the
introduce
committee a little
ourselves.
more.
Well, I think, Mark introduces.
Yeah.
us.
Okay.
I think that might be the way to do it. just so
Okay.
everybody knows the names and,
Why don't we just do it based on topic? Let Mark decide what
I
the
could
topics
switch the,
are.
yeah, I could, yeah, I think. we could do
And
that.
then if there are specific questions that come up, do you want a few folks from the committee designated as the ones who would respond to people, or how
I
do
don't
you
think it
wanna?
can be
I think we just, we have to do a little bit on the fly.
I think
You know, just
some of it has to
Depends
be
on
a
what
little
it
bit
is. I mean,
organic.
here-
I
here's-
don't think
Everything
you
goes-
really-
I
you
think
can't
everything
win
goes to
every
Mark.
single thing.
There's 7 of us, we
Yeah.
can't freelance.
Yeah.
Everything should go to Mark, and if Mark wants to farm it
And
out
I can
or
ask.
pass it
for-
off, he can do that.
Sure.
I think that's the only way
Or
to keep
even
sanity.
I can then turn
If
to
you
something.
really want to talk, you gotta go like this. You don't call on us.
No, but I think Ben can't
Okay.
call on us strategically.
Yeah, no, let him call on me and if there's a question that.
No, I meant, I'm sorry,
Oh,
we're
sorry.
doing 2 things. Yeah, all the questions that he thinks need to get answered should go to you.
If it requires.
The other, Aaron suggested that we might, during the community input, speak as community members.
No, I meant
She meant this committee.
as committee,
Minutes.
when you're talking as a committee of
Oh, no.
introducing you.
No, I think I can also, with something that comes to us, there's a, you know, it'd be okay to say to the committee, while sitting around here, if anyone want to add to
Yeah, I
that
was just gonna say
response. You know, but, and if you say, no, we're good, we're good.
So you know, three people who are now experts in 3 issues that are priorities under the plan, thus happen to come up. You could easily
We have
address to one of those.
Groups, yeah. Right. If anything pops in your head between now and next week from tomorrow, why don't you share them with everybody? Just a little bit. So we have, if there's a conversation that we need to have. if
I
something
have,
comes
I
up.
do, I have one thing that I was wondering about, and I think everything should go through you, Mark. Just wondering how, what's it sound like over there? Because sometimes on Zoom, if people are having a hard time hearing you, how big is that room? You're,
We've got to get him a mic. They have
You have to
mics in
you have to
there.
have
We have
microphones, yeah.
microphones.
You need
Mics? Okay,
microphones, yeah.
so we
Heather,
get mics?
did you want something? Heather? No.
No, as you were talking, I was thinking about whether it makes sense to have a designated person sort of responding to questions. It might be nice during the introduction to have everyone introduce themselves and say how long they've lived in town. But beyond that, I know you're trying to keep it brief, but that's sort of a way to keep it, a personal touch to it also.
I like that.
Yeah.
Heather, while we've got you, can you get word out through the senior center network?
We can put something out through the Facebook, definitely.
Okay.
And within the facility or whatever other means you have?
I could put the flyer up in the facility. I'm not sure if I can send it. I don't have a formal email list that have said they're interested in this specific information. So I would have to check and see if I could send it out, mass email list wise, but I definitely could post it on the Facebook and I could put it, put the flyers around 100%.
Can you imagine a more important topic for seniors than housing in Madison? I can't imagine anyone would be upset if they hadn't thought to sign up and they got.
Well, it's a town announcement, so it's a town announcement, so it should be.
Yeah, that would be great if you could do it.
Sure.
And then we were going to turn it back to Jen and Peggy to do the close. Just a brief,
However you want to do it, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and if it starts to fade earlier than an hour and a half, so be it. If not, I think we should probably close it at an hour and a half, or, within a minute's an hour and a half, so people.
Yeah, we should announce that as part of the explanation of the flow of the meeting,
Yeah.
whoever does that.
Any other comments or questions? Caitlin?
Sounds good.
This will be very exciting to see what
Yeah,
happens.
sounds
It
good.
may be great, it may not be great.
We could have
It will be a lesson learned, whatever happens, it will be a lesson learned. So very great. Okay, that's our public meetings.
Not quite.
Sorry.
We were going to go through the power mapping list.
Yeah, well, that's the next thing.
I'm sorry.
As new business.
I meant in connection with the meeting. Who's going to take responsibility for contacting which of our?
I think what we said is that we should, whoever organized the meeting should contact the spokesperson.
So is everybody clear?
So I will do top letter.
I'm clear.
How about we?
You got the universal.
I've got the
Unitarians. You got the
I did
Unitarians.
I'll do the UUs, already talked to the rabbi. Madison Community Services.
Okay. Eric, Peter, you, okay?
You're doing, North Madison as well as.
I'm very conversational with Todd. And
They came.
I've always copied both of our pastors on all of this stuff that we've done.
Both pastors were there at the meeting we had with.
They were both at the Clergy Association meeting, and the very first community meeting we had was between the two communities.
I think
So
we're-
you know, if you want to contact all of them, that's fine.
No. It's exactly the opposite.
Let me call Todd and you call. Just, I try to, you know, well, actually, right now, the rabbi is the one in charge of, I don't know if it's a monthly chair. He's the convener. This, well, last meeting, he was the convener.
He was, but I
Yeah,
He was for our meeting too.
is he? I think he's on for a period of time. It's like the unofficial chair for example.
Well, then I'll ask him to
Yeah.
contact his
Mhm.
colleagues.
All right, anything more? Minutes? Okay, so that's the public meetings, and now just a quick update on 24 Wall Street. I'm not giving up on this one. But in talking to the minister, that he is very much willing to be public about his interest in making this thing happen. And Jane and I will be meeting with Henry Griggs, who's the fellow with the connection. The library didn't have, pardon? Did anybody hear me? Is anybody not hearing me? No, I think we're okay. Tomorrow we're meeting with Henry Griggs, Griggs, and he is interested primarily in preservation, and we're interested in preservation and then use. And so we want to get back to the library with a plan. And so that's what I do probably the next couple of days. Fact is that the thing that you were mentioning before, this study that was being done about the structural integrity of the building still has not. I have no idea what's going on. It's, you know, like 3 months after they were.
Did they hire someone?
They hired a team of people, yeah. They were supposed to deliver it in early December, and then it was before the end of the year, and then it was going to be January, and as of
It's
February.
not combination of this.
He has no explanation, and I haven't asked the library directly. So, I want to talk to the chairman and the interim. So we'll keep following up on that, and we'll report back with information. New business, we do the power mapping update, but I think we pretty much done that. Is any, we haven't had any other meetings scheduled.
I just had the one, almost 2 weeks ago with, congregation. It was,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
it was during, this is unusual. It was during the service.
During the
So Rabbi, there's a sermon towards the end. And he called me up to deliver a 10-minute overview.
We were expecting this.
Well, he introduced me, he introduced me at the beginning, he found opportunities during the service to reference that I was coming up. I got to talk for 10 minutes, no time for questions. It was a very brief exhibition after service. I made it with folks.
But no one came up.
There was no yeah, a couple people came up, but it was just very brief. Reasons wasn't clear to me. They were trying to get out early that night. But he said to the congregation that this was just the first of a number of conversations.
Just for his words. Can't ask for more than that, actually.
He said he would get the word out for next week, and he planned on speaking So it's more than all right. More than all
So,
right.
you have, as long as he makes it important enough for everybody, yeah, that's.
Yeah, not,
Yeah.
not,
Bennett, can I just ask you, when you said you gave an overview, do you mean just like overview of the community or just?
no, for affordable housing.
Affordable housing,
I tried to
okay.
do 10 minutes of it,
I just was trying to.
as fast as you can go.
Okay, and I'd like to bring up one thing, just to throw it out there, and I don't know whether this makes any sense at all. We've been talking about the land that is, or the buildings, the property that's on the town. And I wonder whether we should be recommending that the town look at their land areas as the first use should be for the house. So in other words, what are we gonna do with this property, whether it's a vacant lot or it's a building? What are we gonna do? First, we should think about whether affordable housing is appropriate for that particular location. And that would be a recommendation by the committee to select the town. Doesn't mean that you have to do affordable housing everywhere. It just means that that should be the first thing before you suggest.
At least in the conversation.
Well, in terms
No, I
of
think
the
you're
town
saying
thinking about
it's
how
the
to use the
default.
land.
That's the default, and it's the right of first refusal. And that is consistent with the recommendation in the plan. So was it-
Well, the plan is to develop criteria.
Yes.
That would be your first step.
Consistent. But we'd have to apply the criteria. But Mark is saying, I think, you put a hold on that and you look to see, is it suitable for affordable housing before you think about going anywhere else.
And turning it into anything else. Yes. I mean, the reason I kept thinking about this, and maybe it's pop in my head, I was thinking about it, is that the academy school is, and I hope it's gonna be whatever he expects it to be. It never got really consideration using that property in a different way. There was a sort of community feeling that we should have a center. So we will have a community center. So I think that would be great if we had a little more thought into that. And if you adopt this rule, the first thing, can you use it for? Maybe you can't, because it has lead paint all over, it's got asbestos, it's probably may not even be practical. But we want people to at least consider that as an option. So I'm not suggesting we adopt that right now, but I would like to have you think about it. I think.
No, hey, put that in a apply, if you did something like that. It's too late now, but what's the apartments down in Bradley, the Bradley?
Right.
Would that apply for that?
It's not private land.
Oh, it's private land?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Very much applies to Jeffrey's rule.
Yeah, it does.
Well,
Those are prime, I think Jeffrey is prime, triple prime site. Yes, it would be nice to have that understanding.
Hmm.
Should be first consideration.
Yeah.
So let's think about it, and I would like to then consider adopting it at the next meeting.
I remember David Fink saying when he first came that all of a sudden we were all gonna start thinking affordable housing. We would see a strip mall and we see an abandoned building, and that's where we've come to, but you know, Board of Selectmen or anyone else isn't quite there, so.
No, I think
yeah.
I think that's correct, and that's what we are advisors to the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
The Board of Selectmen can vote any way they want, but we are advisors. I mean, I'm reading about some of the development that's going to happen in Clinton, the old Clinton Mall, and apparently there's going to be housing, there's going to be retail, and we have no influence at all. It's in Clinton, but boy, it would have been great to be able to, if we had something like that in Madison.
The West.
The
Westwood, like.
I'm sorry, I say Clinton. Clinton was doing okay. Yeah. Okay, and now some of the reports from the working group. I'm just going to take a minute and see where we are with the newsletter, because we should be getting that out.
Yep, I have to, so I went through, there are a couple of things that I thought should probably be edited. We started from editing the format, removing all of the text boxes and recreating this as a plain text document, because we can't share things on the website in text boxes or that format. So we can't use your newsletter format to post. It doesn't meet ADA requirements for the website. So in doing that, I copied the text and put it into a Word document. Some of the items, factually, I thought how the plan was established and the statute that drives that, that was the wrong statute reference. So I had made, so I don't know if you want me to send you my suggestion. I did want to run it through Peggy and just say, hey, this is, the commission is sending out their first.
The answer is yes.
Okay, so that's where we are. Okay, so I will work with her and speak with her tomorrow on that and see what,
And I'm just curious,
if she has any feedback or not.
What does that mean?
what is the American Disabilities Act?
Section 508 dictates the way in which the document appears to people who are
Visually impaired.
Oh,
And there are things you cannot do. And but there are workarounds. You must have a tool that
you mean like a photo? Could you do photos?
We can do photos. The photos I can put in there.
Just out of
And
curiosity,
the
what
words can be,
what was
because
it?
the Word document that was prepared includes text boxes. And so you can't create, it has to all copy as plain.
They're text,
plain
that's
text.
exactly right, yeah.
So I had to take them out of text boxes and put them in just a Word
Sure.
document so that she can,
she
Copy
must
that
have a
into the-
program.
and then she'll run it through for compliance.
Okay, we'll,
Okay,
you know,
whatever.
Take our word for it.
So moving forward-
It's not an impediment. It can be easily fixed.
But it should address the way that you create them moving forward.
Yeah,
It
no,
should
I
just
had
be
no
in
idea,
a
of course,
plain
yeah.
Word document.
Yeah.
Without worrying about formatting and side by side, newsletter looking.
Mhm.
But if you're sending it out as
to be sent
hard
out.
copy,
Yeah.
then you want it formatted a different way, so that
It's not just posting it on the website, it's actually sending it out as an email. But that's what, I'm not sure, I'm not gonna claim to have any technical expertise here, but it should look like a news report, not just a.
So what I think they're gonna do is be put onto the webpage under your committee, and then the e-blast would be notifying with a link to that.
So you
It's
wouldn't
not
send
going
it,
to
you
be a
wouldn't,
separate.
so even though we were
That's my
talking about a newsletter
understanding.
for months, we're not gonna send it, what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to get people to go.
Well, it's still created, yes, it will be on the website. Rita will make it look like a newsletter, but it's not emailing a PDF out to everybody to look at. It will be,
That's what we're
embedded
trying
into
to
the-
do, though. We're
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah,
send
I
a
think-
newsletter to our email folks, but you're saying we can't do that. We've got to
you can't
really,
do that.
it is a newsletter and it will, but it just,
All
it's
it's gotta do is.
just a formatting.
but you're saying that that's just going to be put on the website. And so what, we just have to direct
What
people?
we didn't want, the whole idea of the newsletter was to reach out to the community,
People.
and as we built up an email list, that would grow and grow and grow, maybe.
Well, they would be notified of,
Yeah, but
That's
notifications.
different.
It's not
Getting
either-
an
it's not
email.
either or, right? We have it on the website and we also create a PDF
Should be on the website.
Yeah.
that's attached to an email.
Yeah.
so I will
Would
go
you- would
through.
you, Erin, go back and look
But
at
but
the
it's
things?
let me just understand. So what's going to happen is an email is going to go out, just like I just got an email today telling me that on listserv or whatever it's called. And then there's a link. Is that what's going to
Yes,
happen?
that's what you're talking. Yeah.
That's really not at all, I think, what
No,
we
but
thought
what's
was
We just
happening.
agreed, we're gonna get it as. a
How,
PDF.
Heather, how does your senior center
Yeah,
newsletter?
if I could jump in, what Erin is describing is exactly how we have to send out our newsletter as well. So we create a visual paper newsletter that looks like an official newsletter. And then we create a separate document that complies with ADA. That second document is the one that's posted to our website. And when we send it out, we send out an email to our email list that has a link to our newsletter that's posted on our website. And it links them to the latest newsletter. So you would, as a committee, you would, maybe type up a short email saying, here's our February affordable housing newsletter. Here's a link to our February affordable housing newsletter. Go check it out. Something like that. That's how we do our newsletter through the senior center.
What is the concern of needing a physical PDF versus a link. Because I'm,
I just think that it's unfortunate.
It
because
has to be readable,
you know,
by
I understand,
ADA.
Heather, I understand that. I'm asking the
Okay.
committee why they need the PDF, because I'm not following you why that's
The
important.
idea of the newsletter was
Yeah.
that is as opposed to, first of all, as we all know, emails, what's the open rate? Maybe what, 30%?
Yeah.
It's open, so you've lost now 70% of your audience.
Yeah.
Then somebody has to actually do something and download it or go to the website and click through, which is another part of it.
But emailing a PDF, how,
You have to
how
open a
does
PDF
that?
as well.
If I received an email with a PDF attached, just you were sending it to me, I would look, it'd be harder. I would have to click on the PDF, but I would know it comes from you and I would be willing to click on it. Now, I think if you send an email to someone and say, we have a thing on a server someplace, and here's the link to the server, you're gonna get about 10% of the people, if you're lucky, of the people that you send it to will actually ever see it. And
I don't follow that.
I don't.
Well, because
that may be a-
That's
And
how the
emails-
town.
emails get
I
open.
do both.
Email open rate is somewhere around, average is about 30%.
You know, it's
But that's
generational.
gonna be the same. It's just going to, in my head, I didn't want to say it out loud, but I wanted to
It's
say,
totally
this is
generational.
definitely a
My
generational
kids get
discussion.
nothing on their phone.
The idea that I have to
We've
click
lost a
on
lot
a
of
link,
On a PDF.
there's no, you've totally lost me because there's no visual. Maybe that's a better way for me to see it.
Well, there's no physical mailing of newsletters
Anymore.
either. I mean, that's
Right.
what,
Okay, so
No, no, it's not
I
physical,
understand
yeah.
what we're trying to solve.
Can
and
I,
think-
can I just add, I just pulled up my email that I received from the senior center's newsletter in my email box earlier today. And, there are graphics in there. It's catchy. It's not just a link, but unfortunately, I know it's disappointing, but there are certain guidelines that the town has to follow if you want to use email to send out communications. And, those ADA guidelines, they're there, and unfortunately, that's preventing that's preventing, that PDF being sent out, but
So Jen, you said that there's actually graphics in the email. I mean, I think that's the key thing, and that, maybe that makes it more palatable. So there's graphics, you can actually have an email with some graphics and then the link.
yeah, there's a headline, it has Madison Senior Center with their address and phone number, trends and traditions, senior news, click to open. It's a, green and purple, colorful graphic. There's a little bit of an intro to the fact that somebody's receiving the March newsletter. It says what you can expect in there, and then there's a link so that people can follow into the website to view.
Okay, Jen, I think I understand, Jen, it's basically, I wish somebody had told us this
Yeah.
months ago
Yeah.
instead of telling us after the fact, but if that's the way it is. So if we can't send out an newsletter in an email form so that you can just open the mail and see the newsletter, if we have to do that, then we'll have to do that, but we are losing some of
It's
the.
not clear to me that that's true.
Can't
If
you
you
put
can
a
do
few
this,
bullets
you
in
could put
there?
the whole
Make sure
newsletter
it's-
on an email.
You guys, this is how it is with Rita. I mean, if Mark or somebody wants to schedule a meeting with Rita to understand better why things need to happen the way they need to happen, that's fine, but Board of Education, they need to follow the same rules and regs.
Okay, I'm willing to accept whatever the rules
Yeah,
are. I mean,
whatever
I'm not
they
trying
are.
to change the rules. I'm just saying that the whole idea of a newsletter was to push information out, not try to get people to come to you, because we know that websites are not seen. We know that, I mean, I don't know whether it was anybody looking at the statistics, but when Peggy sends out, or whoever sends it out every week with the schedule, I mean, I
don't
guarantee you
look
that of the town, however many signed up for it, about 20% of them have actually ever opened it up. And so we're losing a lot of the input.
I wouldn't give up. I think if you
Okay.
can do those graphics to introduce the link, you can do those graphics to carry the full content of the newsletter.
I think this is a negotiated session.
There's no technical difference between what Heather does
No, there
and
isn't.
what you want to
No,
do.
there isn't any
You
technical.
just can't format it the way you have.
No, that I
You have to
understand. That I
Format it
understand.
as a regular.
It's about the email. It's an email.
Yeah, but
Let
you
me-
can make it attractive.
I think I would like to meet with Rita and at least understand this better. So, because these are obviously rules we all have to follow, so I'd like to make sure that we know what the rules are before we kind of blunder into these things. So,
Sure. I'll set that up.
but yes, Erin, I think if you would finish your editing and let's
Send
see
it
it,
back.
send it back to us so we can see. I
Yeah,
don't have any problem.
Because I'd
with
also
any-
like to know what
any
was
editing.
incorrect. You know,
Well, she thinks some of the code was.
Well, the
wrong.
plan is,
no, she said that
The
there was
text
some,
boxes.
some rule that we
Oh, no,
didn't
the-
set. No,
The text
there
boxes
was-
were just.
We
the email.
corrected the link,
She was talking about editing.
No, she was
versus-
talking about
or
statute.
the plan. But not the link, the citation. I corrected the citation. It was originally 830G, but that's not it. It was a different section. We did
for
correct
the plan, it's 830J.
Yeah.
Yes.
it. Should have changed.
Yes.
You
I
did
agree
change
with
it,
you.
because you
I
changed
thought I
it.
did, yes.
I took all your changes. Anyway,
We'll fix it.
that was a bigger deal than I thought it was. So we need to learn more. So if
Sure,
Erin, if you
I'll-
can find what Rita's schedule is, we try to time to sit down and talk.
At last,
At last,
all
and
right.
not least by any means, the working
So-
group has been working very hard for quite some time.
Yeah, a little over 2 months. The working group is Anthony and Peter and Eric and myself. And we started with a meeting with Mark to go through the entire affordable housing plan, action by action, and to, out of that, distill two sets of priorities for 2023. The ongoing no-brainer stuff that's going to go on long beyond 2020, I'm sorry, 24. This is late 24. It's going to go on long before beyond this year, and then including things like the website and publicity and working with P&Z on comprehensive review and revision of roads. To come up with 3 specific actions that we thought could make an important difference sooner rather than later. More most importantly, could be accomplished within the scope of this year. Those 3 are most urgently the identification of what the plan calls a point person. We sort of amended to be entity person. Second was the creation of affordable housing trust fund as authorized by state law. And the third was accessory dwelling units. All of these, again, are specific recommendations. And so what we want to offer you tonight, we did send out drafts for people to get a look at. These are discussion drafts. They're not going anywhere else, so we don't need a wordsmith at all. What we want to do is just have each of the folks who drafted those present sort of where they are in the process and what's yet to be done, and get your feedback on what you have questions about, what concerns you have, what suggestions you have for what we should be looking at. We tried where we could to tie the recommendations we have to date to what we learned from peer communities, and not just from other places, but in some instances more broadly. So with that, we're going to keep this brief, but we do want to have
Yeah, please.
real discussion. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll be honest with you, when how you laid it out, 1, 2, and 3. When I started researching housing authority, I was thinking that's the last thing that Madison, Connecticut can do. Housing authority. But when you really drill down, it's more of a, and we discussed this, and I want to give credit to Bennett. He did the lion's share with helping me. I've been crazy at work. So Bennett, you've been a true partner. When looking at this, the affordable housing plan, we do need to promote to the Board of Selectmen to create a director level town position. And this person is going to have to wear a lot of hats. It's gonna have economic development behind it. And they're gonna have the responsibility of promoting, developing, and administration of affordable housing. And creating, how would we say, making it a priority to implement this. Because as we discussed, there's so much involved with grants, funds, development, planning and zoning. So this person has to be the point person in our town. And where we are right now is kind of talking, we got to talk to more towns like Madison and kind of create a job description, I would say, with a salary. You know, we're ballparking about 100,000 for a person with these kind of responsibilities and talents. And that's where we're, what am I leaving out then? That's where we are right now.
So you're looking at other
Questions?
communities along the shoreline.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, just one thing, we are hearing next week, next meeting, which is the 6th. Mark Barnstead, who is effectively the point person for the town of Fairfield, is going to talk to us. We started out thinking that housing authority was an answer to this problem. And it wasn't until we talked to several experts, people doing the work, who made the thing that we heard that maybe housing authority wasn't such a good idea for a town like Madison. That the administrative overhead of that and the lack of any current seed money from the state of federal government made that probably more work than benefit, especially because if we needed to use or wanted to use a housing authority with development capability, we could invite them in to do a project here. And then the idea was to look at Fairfield as an alternative. So we'll learn a lot, I think, from how it operates. This is a town that has a housing authority and also has
Much bigger.
it's much, yeah, it's bigger. It's not hugely big, but it's bigger. But most of the housing authorities are not actively in the game of creating affordable housing. They're legacy systems from the post-war period.
They're just collecting rent and managing.
They're rent collectors.
Yeah.
And they're not building. And Guilford has a housing authority. And they collect the rents, certify the income of the residents, and see that somebody gets to live. But when new developments are being done, maybe you won't do that. So that kind of redirected us. We have not talked to other towns, and I think we could do that through the regional planning agencies, find out these the towns in our area. Sure. We'll do our own investigation to see how do they create such a position, and
Yeah.
do they have it? Yeah. How do they create it? What authority does it have? Where do you go to find such people? I mean, both David and the Housing Authority Director in Fairfield said the key is getting the right person. It really is broad skill set, and personality. Really. Big ballpark at 100 grand, which doesn't seem outrageous for a director position. But so there's a lot of investigation. But I think the priority within the plan for this is huge because it's like you can't fly a plane with a pilot. You know?
Not well, anyway.
Yeah, not very well. So it's kind of a no-brainer. And there is this huge administrative burden that doesn't have a home in all that Aaron's does, which Mark does for part of what he does. Even the stuff that is formally, legally within the charge of the P and Z, they give it to him to do. And then they adopt it.
I would ask Aaron, so too, how doable is a position like this in town of Madison?
We've all been told to cut our budgets by
Well,
1%.
in the world we live in.
Good luck. I think, I'm being involved in writing the plan. The identification of a point person came up because the point person sort of floated throughout years past of who was receiving, or managing the administrative end of managing our affordable units. How this was drafted was not in the sense of creating a position that kind of did this broader community development. That was not, some of the community development role falls under my position as a town planner, and also was served in the shared economic development position with Guilford. Now that Sherry is no longer in the position, I think that there is that question of what's going to happen with the economic development piece. That was a shared position by my predecessor. He was both the economic development commission, director and town planner. So I guess that's a policy question for the Board of Selectmen. I think there will likely be question as to, one, can some of this administration be outsourced? In a small town, I don't know a lot of communities that have this type of position. So it is unique. And
the administration is not the main driver. It's a critical piece, but it's not the main driver. And the Fairfield title is Director of Housing and Economic Development.
yeah, I mean, they have 60,000 residents, we have 18. So there's a big difference in what's.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but I think our job, what you guys are doing is making recommendations. I mean, this is not, if you think this is the right thing to do, and the committee accepts it as the right thing.
Okay.
Jen, I hope
Make our
you'll be able-
recommendations.
I hope you'll be able to join us on the 6th. I think it'd be a really interesting conversation.
I believe I have that on my schedule. I believe that I will be there. That's
It's our regular meeting.
our regular meeting, yeah.
No, that's the other one, I think,
First
Jen.
Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, the one I was thinking of.
It's on Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
on Tuesday.
From Massachusetts.
Let's describe
That's what.
and other things.
So.
Okay, let's move on. to
Yeah,
this.
so one answer to where's the money gonna come from, comes from Peter. and
He's gonna donate the money.
Trust fund.
Oh my God, thank you,
Right.
Peter. Wow. Can move this ahead.
There are several housing trust funds, affordable housing trust funds in the state of Connecticut. And we've talked to most of them, and we certainly looked at all the documents that go with them. The housing trust fund is really important as an incentive for developers, land acquisition, and although we haven't discussed it, financing of an economic development person, may tie in there somehow. Just the current conversation is really instructive in that regard. But the report that we circulated had a couple things interesting in it. How fast the town of Mansfield has been able to raise money as part of their housing trust fund is just incredible. They're in the $6 million range now. And they're about 3 times bigger than we are.
Yeah, how do they do this? What's the mechanism?
They got it through various sources, but the fees in lieu of for the local developers was a big part of it. They also got part of the town budget. Okay, every year they get a town donation to the.
It's a line item.
Yeah, there's several sources, but those are the main ones.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know, kind of how that works out in terms of percentages. Where does it?
Oh, the vast bulk of it came from developers paying.
The fee in lieu of, but the towns surprisingly all bought in with part of their annual
Most
budget.
gave ARPA money. They left over like infrastructure money, not left over, but they dedicated a portion of that as seed money for the fund. The fund was brand new. And
Who's
Guilford's
one?
good.
Which one are you talking?
Mansfield.
Oh, Mansfield,
So they got a big chunk of.
the town,
No, they did.
And Guilford is now, they adopted inclusionary zoning, which is, they have a fee in lieu, and they're in the process of drafting all the details that are laid out very much in Peter's plan about where the money comes from and where it can be spent, and what are the rules for that, all the administrative.
I guess really the only question I had is that I don't know Mansfield that well, but it's a bigger, a lot more developed. I'm sure Mansfield than there is.
oh, we don't disagree with that.
No, I'm not arguing it. I'm just saying that in terms of how do you raise money, is that the best thing for Madison? That's why.
Yeah, so fee in lieu is only one way. Fairfield and other communities, Stamford and Greenwich, I don't know what else, have a flat fee as it's often a percentage of the
Yeah,
fees you
yeah,
pay for
yeah,
a building
yeah.
permit and whatever other
Yeah.
permit you have to do.
There-
It's a small percentage on all commercial, residential development, renovation of a certain magnitude.
Yeah, well, I was looking at what you had, that was my question, is that apply to our situation?
Yeah.
There aren't any towns as small as ours that have a housing trust fund. So I've looked beyond the Connecticut borders and I'm talking to a group in town I used to live in, Sudbury, Massachusetts, which is much closer to our size. They have a housing trust fund. And I'm in contact with them, but I don't have their information back yet. They don't respond.
I think as with Anthony's, we've got a call to neighboring towns.
Sure.
Westbrook, Clinton, Saybrook, any of the places that have some activity, they may be thinking they have already done something.
It's really the communities who have adopted an inclusionary zoning regulation.
Yeah.
That would have that
Because
associated.
that's a
account.
funding source.
That's where your money's going. It's basically like our open space.
Well, we've included in the report two towns' actual ordinances that are there, creating the housing trust fund. And Bennett has drafted a suggested ordinance that we might adopt here in Madison for a housing
It's
trust
not an
fund
ordinance,
as
it's an
well.
outline for an ordinance.
And well, that's what I meant, of course. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
But
We're not ready for an ordinance.
we gotta move in that direction.
Other thoughts about anything people want to know? That's mostly what we're looking for is.
You don't do much without money anywhere. You know,
Well, I think
and then-
clearly, you're right, Peter, and I agree with you. I was saying, you have to try to think of besides money coming in line item in the budget, which, as Aaron points out,
1% down.
the town government has been very careful over the past several years, different administrations, and manage their budgets. So,
Sure.
that is-
But we have for a very long time funded the capital improvement. So that seems to be.
Reserve fund.
I wonder if, question back to some of these funds can these funds actually increase tax dollars?
Are they doing what?
Can they actually be somewhat self-funding in the fact that if you are creating a development fund that, helps underwrite, let's say, we put the town put $500,000 or $1 million towards a project, that project is $10 million in a new affordable housing program. Does the tax base now increase that such that you're coming back around anyway, so you become,
Depends if you give an affordable housing development
Just-
tax abatement.
well, yes, then you have tax
Well,
abatements.
You're still getting some new money. Not
Yes.
as much as you would otherwise.
I get it, yeah, you write off all the tax bases.
Yes. Not as much as a market rate development.
Well, but most of the developments we're talking about are not fully 100% affordable, right? They're mixed use,
Right,
they're
right,
mixed
Most of them.
range.
Hmm.
Some may have some tax abatement, but they may not.
Yeah, no, it's like 30% rate. It's never, so you only have to have 30%.
Right, so I'd be interested to have these conversations, whether they see any economic lift benefit.
So we had a presentation in Scribe, 4 months ago, from three towns that were very active, West Hartford, Fairfield, and Bloomfield, I think. And at least two of them said they've been tracking all kinds of data on this, including data on the fact that it didn't bring children into the school district. Affordable housing.
Didn't overwhelm the schools.
Yeah, it brought in
Yes.
less school-age kids than average development now. But they had data, so we can go back, we can go back to Scrog and see if they can put out.
All that information is on, unless they didn't provide it at the meeting.
They
So-
talked about it, there were no handouts. But yes, I think that's.
Yeah,
a
we
great-
can-
great question. We should put that on the list of the- What's the net
That's, it is a good.
benefit to the town?
Oh, we thought so.
Real,
Direct dollar,
some subsidy.
direct dollar and cents. spent.
I think Jen has to go too, right?
Okay.
Peter, I have a question. How big?
Bruce was just here.
I know, I just told him we're Zoom only for our 5:30 meeting,
There's a few more people.
but I'm gonna sign.
Bye, Jen.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
And last,
But
Eric.
Okay, so the affordable housing plan has an action item in it to review our ADU regulations. And so I've incorporated that into the draft plan. Aaron has actually looked at our ADU regulations already and created an assessment. Ultimately, there needs to be a recommendation. But around those regulation changes, I put together a broader plan. Because just changing the regulatory environment doesn't necessarily and result in more affordable units or more building. And so the plan is really meant to address that. And it starts off with, first of all, rebranding ADUs as the Madison Backyard Cottage Program.
Yep.
Maybe that's the right name or not, I don't know, but it's something that, I think evokes a more positive or resonates with the population perhaps better than saying ADU, which maybe 80% of people don't know or understand. I think it does start with action one, which is let's review the regulatory environment. Let's look at, minimum setbacks, lot coverage areas, et cetera, and make that more flexible for people to add perhaps a larger unit, et cetera. But then it goes into, how do we also make it easier? And for anybody who's built a house or remodeled their house and gone through an architect, it's complicated, it's confusing, it's expensive. And so how do you lay out a program that makes it easy for someone to do this? One way that's been done in other communities is, you have architects run a competition with local architects, the Yale Architecture School, for some pre-approved ADU designs in town that the town can put on their site. You can make the plans available for free or for a small fee. And then you can streamline the approval process. Hey, if you use one of these 10 plans and it's within all the existing setbacks, et cetera, the process is really streamlined and it's maybe the fee is waived, it's even cheaper, or there's a very small fee. I think financial incentives and funding, figuring out how to fund these, whether they be through setting up some standard funding sources with local banks. There might be some partnerships to promote affordable units, especially if they're deemed affordable, deeded that way. And then, just because it's an ADU and it's small, doesn't make it a deeded affordable housing unit. So then creating additional incentives like tax abatements, et cetera, for actually deeding the unit affordable in town. Deed restricting, yes. And then lastly, just like we're trying to do, you gotta go out and promote this stuff. So how hosting, meetings at the town library, et cetera, about how to go about this. I got an email from a big new neighbor hosting Zoom meetings about doing this, et cetera. So it's sort of a multifaceted program that's intended to go beyond just changing the regulatory environment to promote the building of more ADUs in town.
I think it all sounds terrific. Questions?
Well, we've generated a lot of information,
Yeah.
which is gonna prove useful, we hope.
And by the way, it ties back to having someone who can coordinate, and push a program like this forward, this director of housing or economic development, whatever it is. And a funding source in order to fund, you know,
It all works together.
it all works together, right? Like, it's hard to make a program like this happen if you don't have those two things first in place. You can do the regulatory changes, but then it sort of stops there. So.
Is it, so my question when I read through this, is one of our goals to write some, like agree on stuff and then write it up and suggest that to the,
Well, we have to do the research. I mean, first, we're not finished. This is a preliminary report. Obviously, there's a lot more stuff that has to be done. Detail. But,
you know,
the
like
answer-
when
the
I'm
answer is-
looking at
The
this.
answer is yes.
The regulatory part of it is within P and Z. There are some things there that might fall under the oversight. To the extent that it makes sense, like with trust fund, we will draft.
No. Proposal.
We'll propose for ordinance for it, based on everything we've learned that we think makes sense for this. With regard to the P and Z stuff, they've already done the analysis. I think we can contribute to it what Eric is learning from other places about the nature of the changes. And it's not that the state law, that's limited to comparison of what we've got to what the state law is that we have to have. Doesn't mean the state law is necessarily the ideal model for us either. So if we come across ideas that are better than the state, there's no reason to advocate for adopting the state. Let's do one better. How we do that with P and Z, I don't know, but we're going to face that over and over again.
With all the other people.
And yeah, and we're going to have some working relationship. They're the legal entity, but we're the point committee on the affordable housing aspect. And we would hope that we would be welcome at the table with our ideas. That's certainly Peggy's understanding of how it would work, and I assume it's Carol's as well. She would want our, and not just feedback with the rest of the community as a matter of legal requirement, that we'd be there at the draft meeting with their suggestions.
Okay, I guess my question is, it was, you know, when we get to that point, is this something that we're going to discuss and say, and come up with what we all agree on, or is this, do you know what I'm getting at?
Let me try to go back to square one. That it said, what they're recommending is that the committee as a whole,
Mhm.
through the working group, committee as a whole, has identified 3 areas that should be investigated first.
Okay,
We just discussed.
yeah, I got it. Mhm.
So that's the idea. So from 3 of us who are not on the working group, basically to agree with that, that's the 3 things that we look, that's the first 3 things we
Well,
want.
we did agree to that, because we wouldn't have done the work if you didn't agree that those were the.
Now, let me just go through for practice's sake, and let's go through the logic of what we're doing. So number 1, we identify these things. The committee has endorsed these as 3 things to
Okay.
look into.
Mhm.
These gentlemen are looking into those things. We are not ready to make any kind of recommendations at this point because they're not ready. And the thing I will ask at the end of this is just, what is our timetable? We should have a timetable, even if the timetable has to be moved. We should have a timetable for this. So you follow that? I mean, this is okay with you, Jake? I mean,
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, that is helpful.
So
I guess all I'm
I won't
asking
get into
is,
this yet.
okay,
This is-
yeah, my question is, okay, I get that you said these 3 items, line items, or whatever you want to call them, have been identified as 3 priorities.
As our priority.
As our priority to, what I'm asking is, who eventually, will we be discussing this?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
That we will come to an agreement as all of us will have input into what we're recommending?
Of course, because this is the first presentation of the information.
Okay, I get it.
And as I say, we need to set a timetable for this so we can work on the timetable. Because there are,
The purpose of this presentation and sharing of the document was to get your feedback
Okay,
on what you would like us to further explore, because we're still in an exploratory phase.
And you've had a couple good ideas here.
Yeah.
And we will come back to you with a formal draft recommendation.
Well,
for your
perhaps
review.
interim reports along the way, I think. is
Well,
more
I'm
likely,
hoping
yeah,
there won't
yeah.
be another interim, right?
Well, I don't know,
I
if
have a
you,
question.
yeah.
Okay,
Jane.
the housing trust funds, the money, let's say you come up with a straw man for that, and the money that's accumulated in that would be used for development or to
Several-
fund like
several
the
different-
housing authority alternative that we're thinking about, or just everything like that? Is that?
There's many opportunities to spend that money.
Fine.
You know, some of the big ones are to help a developer.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Get a
Yeah.
proposal going.
Yeah, okay, so-
Another one is land acquisition. Okay, that's a big deal
sure.
too.
Okay.
Those are probably the
So,
two.
so basically, there'll be sort of a charter as to where the monies go, whatever. Going back to the first point that Anthony was talking about, the housing authority alternative, which is the director position. And I mentioned this to you, Anthony, in our last meeting. I feel like that is money out. The housing trust fund is money in. However, I think one of the things that people are gonna think is, okay, it's gonna cost me $100,000. How? And Peter, this is what I think people are gonna wanna see is how fast will the housing trust fund get to the point where it could fund a position like this? Because I think we're in a very fiscally conservative community. And I think that people are gonna balk, especially if the town is now in a position where they have to cut their budget by 1%. With any suggestions that we add administrative people, unless we have figured out a way to pay for them. That's all. That was just my comment. on
Well,
that.
the trust fund, I hadn't even considered funding or salary for economic development or housing authority person as part of the trust fund expenditures. I mean, that's an idea that just occurred to me today. I mean, I'm not with it maybe, but I didn't,
You were
I
shaking.
had never considered that
Okay.
for expenditure of those funds. But it makes a little bit of sense when you really think about it, but I haven't given it any thought.
I think you bring up a good point, which is until there's funding in the town, it may be having a director to disperse those funds or focus on development may not make sense. It may make sense to start with a funding source. We could I don't think any of us have any idea of what that would develop. So it'd be helpful to have as part of this, probably the next step is what are the ranges of fees on a permit that are in other towns? We can then get the average annual permits from Aaron in the town and see what that would develop. We could look at, there's not that many new developments in town, so the in lieu of is gonna be pretty small. It's probably gonna be,
Unless, right, and that's where I think Guilford kind of went through that of the push, what's the magic number
right.
of developments? And there was pushback, I think, on some of that, any development over 2 units where, I mean, it's.
Yeah, some are 10, some are 4.
There are other possibilities of taxes that you could possibly have, and an exit tax on selling houses.
Yes, and so I think we can look at some of those and look at how many transactions are there in a year typical, and what that would generate.
I see a perfect
Yeah.
relationship
Yeah.
between you two guys.
But Jane is also
figure
making a
out-
very good point that the money, before we start spending money, we should have a way of looking at bringing in money.
Bring in,
Yeah.
And so therefore sequentially, that becomes the first step, second step, third step, kind of,
I think the town has to be prepared to fund the position,
for a period of time.
Easier
certainly
said
for a
than
period
done.
of time. And
Easier said than done. I'm
It's
just,
indeed, yeah.
you don't want to get.
I have a
people-
position currently vacant in my department that's on the chopping block.
Right.
That is funded this year and I cannot fill the
I
position
understand,
because I don't know whether or
change
not
is
it will be
coming to
funded next
Madison.
year.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
The
did you
Board
know
of
that
Selectmen-
Madison is changing?
If the Madison.
Did you notice that
Board of
Madison is
Selectmen
changing?
So I
is
know it.
changing
I-
the
I
Vice
know
vice
it.
president.
I read it somewhere, I'm not sure where it was. I read it.
If the Madison Board of Selectmen are serious about implementing the plan, this is the key recommendation, other than making us a permanent committee,
Which will.
which they have yet to do.
I don't know that I agree. I think the housing trust fund is more important than having a new
I disagree
designated position.
completely. Without someone to drive,
You have to have somebody that runs, that works with the, if you have a housing, you have money, but nobody to sort of manage it, it's gonna fall on your lap or the person that just, you can't hire to even to help you. I mean, you need.
I mean, that's,
If you're gonna
that's a
change,
reality and
well, it is, the reality
In a
is
small
whatever
town.
people perceive it to be. I mean, it's,
I guess the way I would look at it is, we should define what we think this position should be doing in the
which
town,
is what,
Yes,
which is, I know
which
what
is what Eric.
Anthony's
is
gonna
doing.
do, and we have, and then we should look at, I think what Aaron's saying is like, we may be fiscally constrained, and we may have to say, who in town in their current position can take on pieces of this, we may have to divide it up,
yes.
or,
And
or
Aaron
what
had already
aspects.
suggested
or,
that. Yes.
or what
He
aspects
had
of
already-
outsourcing.
Yes.
And that may be the way to start also.
Yeah,
to
but
get
that
started.
has to be that has to be,
Yeah.
in the plan.
Yeah, we have,
Anthony.
it has to be
Yeah,
specific as to.
So-
Peter, you had your hand up?
Well, I wanna give Francine a little support here. The action plan that we
You gotta
developed,
handle yourself.
the action plan that was developed by the town. That's top 3 items to do, top 3 actions are what we used for Bennett's little committee here.
Right.
Those are the town's top 3 actions from the affordable housing. So that's why we're doing it.
No, I understand that. I just want to ask one more question. I feel like I'm being really dense, but I get the housing authority and the housing
Trust.
trust fund. The next piece, the ADU recommendations, whatever that document is.
Mhm.
Are we gonna be discussing that before we present that?
We're doing
So that we
Yeah,
all
everything.
agree with that?
Christine.
That's all I'm trying to get at.
We are not adopting anything. What this working group is doing the research for us.
And just presenting
To
it to us.
presenting it to the committee, which they have a majority of the committee. But the committee is then going to either vote
Eventually,
for or
we're going
against
to-
or amend or change whatever it is. So yes.
At
so-
another time, we'll be doing that.
At a time when they are ready, and I think that's, I think in the logic that Eric was putting as far as what has to come first.
Yeah.
and Jane was, but on the other hand, if things can get, some part can be finished sooner rather than later, we can look at that as a finished product, and then wait for it to put the whole package together before we make any.
Right, I mean,
But I go back to
for
what
example,
you,
in the backyard cottage program, I would move forward with the regulatory changes. There's no cost to
There's no
that. We
reason
should
not
get
to.
that in front of planning and zoning. The other piece is, like, there's no one to drive them forward. I'm certainly not doing it in my spare time. I don't have the time to do that.
that's the
Sounds
reality.
nice,
It is,
but
it is
Yeah.
without a person whose responsibility it is to see that this stuff gets done, it ain't gonna happen. When it's added to somebody's existing workload, it's not gonna happen.
Okay,
Jane,
so Anthony, so
Yeah, go ahead.
to your point, to your description, and I just jotted down 3 areas. I think you need a job description that goes with that. But the 3 areas I wrote down were grants, planning, and management that fall under this supposed director position. And I think what we should say is, look, grants, you need a grant writer. Okay, you need a grant writer. I don't know if we have a grant writer. I think a grant writer is less expensive than the 100,000. Planning, I think that falls under Erin. I think she's a planner. And then there's management, which Erin has mentioned can be outsourced to these people who are doing the building themselves can actually outsource this as part of their management fee. So I just think that those areas need to be added in there and say,
Part of
you
the
know,
plan.
maybe this is how we start off. And then maybe eventually you get your director position.
Just ask you,
I hear you.
when you get a chance, take a look at the 7 action items here that were identified as areas where we need someone to be in charge. And add to that, ADUs. Yeah, that's what we're
But
targeting.
ADUs, based on what Eric has mentioned, it really comes down to creating new planning laws to change our existing regulations.
It's
Once
amending
that-
the zoning
Yeah,
regulations.
so
Yes.
once that is done, what are you talking about? Unless it's deed restricted, obviously.
well,
then you have to-
so the problem with just changing regulation, it doesn't really lead to a promotion of incremental units.
no one
Very
really
much.
know
It's
what
very-
happened.
Like I read a research study and
Yeah.
it said it was changing the regulation resulted in less than 1% applicants.
So you have to do the marketing plan, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
And that
it's
costs
about,
Well, not marketing, but you were saying
there's,
before. or,
there's
you know,
financing, there's
Facilitating the process.
Yeah, okay,
facilitating,
the plans
there's
that are gonna be
plans,
for free
reducing
and
the
all of
fee
that.
structure, I mean,
Okay, so you need a budget for that, so what's the?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but
the housing trust.
well, if you had someone, if you had a position that was responsible for all of this,
I know, I
They
hear
would-
you,
or-
and I'm agreeing that these are things that all make sense, but my point is, we better be ready for the alternative, which is that there's no budget for it. And how do we create that money, or how do we come up with a plan to create that money?
Well, there are a number of things that we can consider. and-
That's
and
all.
the
That's
Board of
my only
Selectmen will have to
position
decide
on
what they
this.
want to do.
yeah,
But I
it
mean,
seems to me, exactly, the Board of Selectmen will have to decide.
The old, my
Well,
old,
okay.
my old town in Westchester County had an exit tax, and it was 5%. And if you sold your house, you paid 5% to the town, and then went into a trust fund, simple
Gotta be
thing.
kidding me.
No.
Same in Seattle.
Very popular. very
I can tell you as a liberal Democrat, I'm not a fan.
Well, the thing is, they slip it by because you don't notice it, because you're not selling your house right now, so you don't really pay attention.
Don't care.
You're selling your house.
You currently are paying a tax to the state. The seller pays a tax to the state when they sell a house. So we could do it, and there's authority to have a municipal.
Yeah.
There's a municipal add-on in statute.
But I think we're getting into the details now, and I think at this point, it's 10 minutes of 6.
Yeah, we need to be able to let them set up for. the-
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
and
6
I think we
o'clock.
want to do that, and I think that we're not cutting off conversation. I think that I would like to ask the working group to think about a schedule, so we should lay out a schedule that it takes, all the rest of this year, it's not going to be finished. I'm saying, I don't care, the thing is that we want to schedule, I think we should know what the next steps are
Because
going
it's
to
a
be.
2024 plan, so we will definitely, we'll
Yeah,
prefer,
2024.
but I think we have probably one that we can do at our meeting on the 20th, and probably another meeting after that.
But there is some research that has to be done.
Yeah, there's research that has to be done, and we'll figure out when.
Okay.
Okay, this is the committee that wants to use this space right after us, so we should get a. Sorry, the meeting is adjourned at.
Did we scare away the town person, or was that?
I think so.
I think it's really.
Bye.